BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. Here another week at BodyBags. It is week 514. It's the end of the month. It's theme week. It's my theme week. It's a return to college horror, volume 2. And so all week, all you're going to get is films rooted deeply into the idea of it happening in colleges, college campuses, whatever. So the reason I came up with this and wanted to revisit this theme in particular really was because how much I wanted to revisit or take a look at for the first time. I don't recall seeing Splatter University as a kid. I could have rented it on VHS, I guess. I just don't have, I have more memories of the promotional material going on when it came out. I was 14. I don't know if I would have been able to find anyone to take me to see this, and I don't recall us seeing it in the drive-in. But I do have a lot to say about that, though. But the poster is iconic. It's unfortunate that Elizabeth Caton, who does the poster promotional, who is in Friday the 13th Part 7, who plays Robin, if you remember, is not in the film. So, real actress, but she's not in the film. And it's kind of too bad, actually. I might have given it a little bit, it might have helped. We'll get into it. So, Splatter University, 1984. It is a Richard W. Haines film. He would go on to do, Class of Nukem High? And a new one not too long ago, What Really Frightens You, from 2009, I think. And so, Splatter University, watched it last night. I'm just going to chalk it up to a first-time watch, and what a first-time watch it was. Not all good. What do I say about this? My wife said it is the... the dooziest of all the doozy films that I have watched on occasion. This one's the dooziest. We both were laughing just hysterically when this movie ended. And I wasn't sure. If I would have done the review right at that moment, I doubt I would have had a lot of good things to say. But I did a little bit of a deep dive into it. I listened to the podcast on it via the Hysteria Continues, which, by the way, they do have a what do you call it? Commentary track. Holy smokes, where'd that go? Commentary track. The Hysteria Continues podcast, as well as the director. I'm not sure why I can't talk today, but so I don't know where even to start with this. The film. Okay, so I was listening to Forbes Riley, who is the lead actress, plays Julie Parker. She's a sociology. You know what? I'm not editing anything. I just can't talk today. She a sociologist professor, sociology, whatever. So she takes up this job at this private university. I garner it's a Catholic university, which just makes a lot of this film really super weird. But I think a lot of it is made weird because I think if I remember right, in order to get distribution, they had to fatten up the runtime. And so after the fact, post already filming, they went back and filmed certain scenes that they could just lodge in to fatten up the runtime. These scenes run really against the grain of what was, at least in Forbes Riley's words, a pretty strong independent film that ran 80 some minutes, I think, and told a really good story of this particular character who basically gets a teaching gig. There we go, man. The whole thing's gonna be like that. Kind of like this movie in a way. So there you go. Me and the film will go hand in hand today. And so she tells the story how she is a character who is innocent, very innocent, and she suddenly finds herself in a situation where not only has she taken up the reins in a classroom where I think the year before that professor was brutally killed, murdered, She decides to take it anyways, and it's not easy, man. The kids, man, don't help. That one scene in the classroom was so cringy, so awkward, and it wasn't just the lack of attention of the lazy students. Imagine that at college. This would have worked better if it was a high school or something. I don't know. Maybe she gets an observer as well. But anyways, this girl suddenly is surrounded by these murders, quite horrific, and she starts to sense or get the idea that not only does she think the killer is on campus, maybe even a role there on campus, she starts to get a sense of who it is. And so, so she's a professor, but she plays Nancy Drew, and she just really wants to figure this thing out and put an end to these pretty brutal murders. And so how the film, that's tough. Like, I think I'm going to stay away from spoilers and do my best not to really spoil anything. Because if you do see it, I want to recommend it, but I'm going to recommend it on that you understand and realize that you're going to be watching this, and there are scenes that are going to just absolutely run contrary to what seemed to be the flow and ebb of a movie, and it just comes out of left field. And it's because of these newly injected scenes that look, I thought I was watching, at times I thought I was watching a bad version of Deadbeat at Dawn. If you know that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is a pretty darn good movie, man. Independent filmmaking at its best, maybe. So I don't know, man. I got caught up with a few things. I remember the promotional push. The gimmick, one of the gimmicks was if you went into the theater, you got a barf bag because the film supposedly was that gory. I thought about that throughout the movie. I'm like, why did we, if I would have seen it at the time, why did we need barf bags? This movie is nothing in the absolute realm of something like, say, Fulci, any Fulci's movies, The Gates of Hell, say, nothing, man, like this. It just, I don't know. I'll say this. My opinion from late last night to this morning and this afternoon it's like from one end of the spectrum moving towards the other end, but not quite. I listened to Forbes Riley's interview there on the Hysteria Continues pod. I listened to them talk about it, and for them it was revisiting the film. I think Justin really hated it. Most of them did, I think, initially. But were refining themselves in the film. And I think it's one of those films that on a first-time watch, you're just going to be like, dude, I will never watch this ever again. But if you listen to the Hysteria Continues pod and you start to learn more about the film and the nature of it coming together and being put together, even it's at its worst flawedness, you start to see that there was real potential for me. It's too bad this movie needed distribution, or in terms of theatrical. It's too bad they just didn't run it straight to VHS and left it as an independent film with a tighter. I think the film would have been thought more of in the long run, especially in terms of some of its themes that are attemptedly tried to work out, are attemptedly worked out in the film. Its ending, the killer, the reveal of who the killer is. There's one scene in particular right at the end. You have that. Okay, so like the Telltale Heart or the Black Cat. You have this device, this mechanism that allows for the reveal, right? You have a semblance of that towards the end of this, and depending on where you're coming from and how you're viewing this film, it could have a pretty strong sense of, well, isn't that ironic? Or even more, the device is it gives you a lot to think about afterwards. Maybe not on the first viewing, you don't really think about it because you're too much caught up in so many other aspects, bad aspects of the movie. Some of the acting is so horrific, especially the injected scenes. But if you can push those scenes apart and try to see this movie for the movie that could have been, it is a bit of a tighter film. Mark, the character that plays Mark is pretty good. Randing. Dick Biel plays Father John. Jansen. Kathy LaCommare. Kathy, Cynthia, Laura Gold. Jim Martin plays a character named Jimbo. So, that's the other thing. I was just looking at my notes. Troma put this movie out. And you almost think, well, there you go. That explains everything. But again, if you know that the Children is a very un-Troma-like film. It's not your standard Troma film. Splatter University did not need to be. It could have been a lot like that. It didn't need to be your standard Troma film. It could have been something different, something, oddball in light of what Troma is, right? I thought that was interesting. It was released on Vestron. I've been saying that a lot lately. Vestron, originally titled Thou Shalt Not Kill, was the original. So it's shot in 81. Additional scene shot in 82, and it's released in 84. And so you have a movie that begins, and the budget was like $26,000. So they're not working with a lot of money here. It's just so much of the movie, man, just does not make sense. Reactions of certain characters to certain things that are happening, it's just mind-blowing. There's a scene where guy and a girl at the drive-in, and he's wanting to do with what a lot of kids do at the drive-in, and they see somebody approaching the vehicle. He goes out to be the man. Well, he wanders off into the wood line looking for the person they think they saw. Well, then eventually it doesn't take long. She goes out too, and of course she ultimately ends up being killed. But when the boy comes back and gets into the back seat of the car, she's in the passenger front, of course, with her throat slit and everything. But he sits there in the back, and he just sort of like, "What, you're gonna come in the back? You're gonna come in the back? What? Yeah, fine. What? I'm just watching the movie." And it's like, and you as a viewer, you're looking straight into the car. You see her clearly in her condition. You see him in the back, and it's like, how do you not see that? I mean, and of course, you never see the resolution of that. Him realizing, if he ever does. But there's a lot of goofy scenes, man. Just a lot of one poor girl, and I don't think the scene ever plays out to be that sucker punch in the gut that it should. But one poor girl's killed in a car, and we see just slightly after that her body's been thrown in a dumpster. I mean, and there's some themes of abortion that run underneath with Forbes Riley and another girl, her close best friend who's a professor. And so, I mean, there is a real attempt to make a pretty strong independent film, but this completely gets obliterated by the injection of these other scenes. And maybe I'm just talking too. One thing I need to point out real quick though is the packaging of Vinegar Syndrome. This is phenomenal, man. Look, you open it up. Look at that. You get the one disc is the original artwork. The other is alternative artwork. You've got commentaries. You got all the spots. A theme song on here. They send you a nice little Vinegar Syndrome sticker. Their promotional card, right? So, I mean, a movie of this nature probably should not look and sound and be packaged as good as this one is. But if you're into low budget independent filmmaking, this is what this movie really is at its heart. But because of the insane promotional push in its theatrical release, it looks to be something way much bigger than what it is. And how they got this thing on the big screen is beyond me, considering everything I saw on the big screen as a kid. I don't, it's one of those weird films. You know what would be a good double feature? Deadbeat at Dawn followed by this would be a perfect double feature, independent film double feature. That would be perfect. I really wish Vinegar Syndrome would have somehow garnered the rights or got the director to maybe do a re-edit of what should have been the original independent film before they had to include the other scenes, and given that as another option to view. I think you'd be really looking at two different movies for the most part, both independent, but one actually that might look better than independent filmmaking. So anyways, if any of that all makes sense to you, it's without getting into the review, I'll let you see it if you want to see it. I thought I saw it coming. It's not like the biggest surprise in the world, but I'll say this: when it does unfold, it does so in a way that I'll say the end stretch is some of the tightest pieces of the film, and yeah, it's an interesting. It is an interesting film. Splatter University. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is for those independent film gurus who can't get enough of independent film. Or you just want something in your collection for Vinegar Syndrome that is a really well packaged deal. But anyways, Troma, that was the biggest surprise. I had no idea that was a Troma produced film. Wow, that's weird. So anyways, here at University of Horror Volume 2, we splatter you. It'll be fun to see everything else drop throughout the week. Again, thank you for your constant support, your views, your comments. Hit that like button. Sub if you haven't subbed to BodyBags. A lot of fun here, and it is really appreciated the time you take out of your day to watch us. We appreciate it. As always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.